Hi guys, my name is Umahani Zengina. I'm a teacher and an advocate. I'm the founder of Dream Healers Foundation, an initiative that focuses on children disability and mental health. We are also advocates of inclusivity. With me here is Fatima Bello, and Fatima Bello is going to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Fatima Bello from Heskey Children's Foundation, and this is a foundation that provides aid and assistance to children living with a disability, and we also promote disability studies. So, causation of a disability, prevention of a disability, and how you can support and truly take care of a child with a disability. So today's topic is how to treat those with disability, and I think that's a great way to start this little mini series of
Exactly.
5 or 6 videos. So I'll let you go ahead and start.
Okay. I believe the attitude of calling people by their disability is totally wrong, and it's rude because it's just like saying that person is nothing but the disability. Meanwhile, there's a lot to that person, and when you tell a person this is who you are, you just like cage and cave the person into just one category. You stereotype the person into one category, and sometimes the stereotyping and the discrimination comes from within that person's family. Right from his family, he has been rejected, he has been stereotyped and discriminated. So he manifests into this kind of a person that feels less of a human. So, in addition, addressing people by just their disabilities, it affects the individual's mental health. It deprives the person from meeting his or her full potential. So it's actually wrong. And also, children grow up to address people by their disability. Like I've seen so many people address a house where there's a blind man as just the blind person's house, instead of saying the name of the person, then addressing the house. So, and before they even mention the person's name, they usually call the person's disability. And this is very common in Nigeria because most of our languages are not so polite to maybe call people by their names and other qualities when they have a disability. So children watch adults, and children are imitators. So when they see parents or teachers calling people by their disability, inevitably the children are going to grow up to address people with disability by their disability, which is absolutely wrong and rude, and it's just not acceptable. So when we change how we view people with disability, the world will also, the people with disability will be able to change the world because they'll be able to meet their full potential and grow up to be people with sound mental health. And so, yeah.
Well, that's really interesting, and I'm glad you brought that up. So, in disability studies, there is a linguistic prescription that's called People First Language, and it's basically promoting how you should speak to a person with a disability or how you should address a person with a disability. So, the idea behind it is you identify the person first before their disability. So, for example, instead of saying, oh, that person is disabled, you say that person has a disability because the word disabled is an absolute. So when you say that person that person is disabled, you're basically saying they have all limitations, they can't do anything, they're incapable. But when you say that person has a disability, you're acknowledging that they have a limitation in maybe one area, but they still have abilities in other areas. Or, for example, if a child has autism, you don't say that child is autistic, you say that child has autism because autism is something the child has, is not something that that child should be defined by. So, going on with that, I have like about 8 tips on how you should treat those with disabilities and how what you should just keep in mind. So number one, first and foremost, is approach a child the same way you would approach their peers, with kindness and respect. So just because a child has a disability does not mean you should be rude to this one and not rude to the, you know what I mean? Like treat them all equally
Yeah.
with kindness and respect. Number two, learn about the child's disability. I know you're a teacher, so if you have a child in your classroom with a disability, I know you do very good at this, but um, you know, try to learn about the disability. If you have a family member with a disability, if you have a neighbor with a disability, if your child goes to school with someone with a disability, you know, try to make that effort and learn about it. And this is where Heskay Children's Foundation comes in. So if you follow our page on Instagram, we kind of make posts about different disabilities and just how you can learn about them. And learn something new. Number 3 is, let's all assume that the child is competent. So many times we ourselves are the issue and we hinder the growth of a child with a disability. And just think about it, a child that does not have a disability, you let them make their own mistakes, right? And they learn from their mistakes. And we need to do that with children with disabilities. I know they're more fragile, so, it's harder for us to kind of say, oh, let's let them go play. And then if they fall, let them learn from that mistake because, they are fragile. But we need to be able to let them make those mistakes and learn from them. We need to have positive expectations for these children because they are able, let's respect the child's differences. Let's not teach children to be ashamed of their abilities and their disabilities. Instead of teaching a child with a disability how to look normal, which in itself is what is normal, but that's another conversation. So instead of trying to teach your child to look normal, let's teach others to accept differences. At the end of the day, we are all different. And then also work to include children within the community. Let's stop saying, oh, children with disabilities are not active members of the community if we're not including them into the community to become active members. And also be careful about the strategies that you use and the people you consult on disabilities, because there are many areas, many disability-related disciplines that focus on eradicating signs of differences rather than promoting what is best for the child. So many times these different disability disciplines are focused more on how to make the child look normal, how to stop a certain behavior because it could be embarrassing to you when you're in public, rather than accepting the child for who the child is and what their condition is. Let's also have our children, meet others with disability. Let them know that they're not alone and they have a community. Children are children. So, and I think we sometimes forget that when it's a child with a disability, we either coddle them too much and we baby them too much, or we kind of take away their innocence and we don't let them experience childhood. So, if you have a child with a disability, tell them a fun story about someone with a disability and how they've, thrived and they're successful, whether it's a true story or not a true story. At the end of the day, they are a child. Make a fairy tale about someone with a disability. And then finally, accept the child for who he or she is. Children accept us for who we are, and we are not perfect. So why do we tend to discriminate those with disabilities, especially children? So those are just kind of some tips that I have for you. Hopefully they were beneficial and helpful.
Very beneficial. Very interesting.
I'm glad. So, this was the first video. We have like about 5 video series. Other topics are, mental health, childhood trauma, identity, and emotional intelligence, just to name a few. So please join us on our next session. Thank you so much. Salam.